Sochan rises. What a shot by Sochan.
Jeremy Sochan, a 6'8" Polish-American forward out of Baylor, has risen on draft boards over the past couple of months. Playing in Southampton, England before moving to the States for college ball, Sochan was a 4-star recruit and the 40th ranked player according to 24/7 Sports. Now, the player known for his colorful hairstyles is a projected lottery pick. Sochan's biggest strength is his defensive impact. Sochan is a very good defensive player, and he's also very well-rounded in that regard. This, coupled with his defensive versatility, makes him one of the most valuable defensive prospects in this year's draft. Sochan has the combination of lateral quickness as well as size in order to guard 1 through 4 and some centers at the next level. Sochan has shown the ability to get down into ball handlers, even if they're quicker guards, and really hound them on the perimeter. He's also adept at playing passing lanes without overextending himself off ball, and his recognition of where he needs to be on the floor, as well as what his responsibilities are as an off-ball defender, are at a very high level already. Meanwhile, Sochan has shown some passing upside, which makes him an intriguing offensive prospect. He's able to make some quick reads, and while he's not a primary ball handler by any means, his ability to attack seams and then make the right play is definitely a positive trait. And then a lot of Sochan's offensive value comes off the ball. He's a very solid cutter, and his combination of length and body control helps him finishing around the rim. Now let's look at some improvement areas, the first of which is Sochan's 3-point shooting. Shooting a shade under 30% last year at Baylor, Sochan needs to improve his shot to fit better as a complementary piece on the offensive end. I think the biggest problem with Sochan's jump shot is the lack of proper extension on his shooting wrist, and this is something that could be easily fixable. Sochan's shooting struggles also occur at the free throw line, where he shot 59% last season. This definitely needs to improve, and some people are worried about Sochan's long-term 3-point shooting ability, as free throw shooting can be a long-term indicator of 3-point shooting success. The third area of improvement is Sochan's only weakness on the defensive end, which is his rim protection. He has some impressive moments of rim protection just by beating drivers to the spot and being in the right position and recognizing plays quickly. However, he just doesn't have a ton of vertical explosiveness in such situations. This may limit his potential to be a small ball 5 in the NBA. The fourth area to improve for Sochan is his self-creation. This is a tricky area when analyzing Sochan because his ball handling and first step are solid but not great. I wouldn't necessarily list them as weaknesses, but I wouldn't list them as strengths either. He does lack a pull-up jump shot, and when you combine all those things, he does struggle a lot to self-create. This is the biggest swing skill for Sochan when trying to predict his long-term upside. Self-admittedly, Jeremy Sochan has been a guy that I've really struggled to analyze. I haven't been able to make up my mind on him as a prospect, and it's due to a couple different things. Defensively, I think Sochan projects as a guy who can come in right away at the NBA level and be a positive impact on the defensive end. I'm always a bit reserved talking about rookies coming in and immediately being a guy you can throw up against the best players in the world. I think it takes guys some time until you can say that they could potentially be a LeBron or a Giannis stopper, and honestly, nobody stops those guys. But I do think long-term Jeremy Sochan could be one of the players that you could throw up against a Giannis Antetokounmpo or a LeBron James type of player, and he can do a really good job on them because he has the size, he has the strength, and then he has the foot speed in order to give those guys some issues. A lot of the best offensive forwards in the world will be problems for defenders if they lack in any one of those areas. If you don't have good enough foot speed, Giannis or Kevin Durant are getting by you and going downhill. If you don't have the best size, they're going to score over you or shoot over you. So I do really like Sochan's blend of size and then quickness defensively. I also think he's a smart defender, which is another positive. I think Sochan has a legitimate chance long-term to make an all-defensive team. I think his switchability and his versatility is going to be a key trait as well. If you throw him into a lineup with more switchable defenders, then you're going to be able to switch a lot of things and shut down some actions that way. So in regards to Sochan's defense, I have no worries whatsoever. I think it might be the most bankable skill still in the entire draft, I don't see how there's any chance that he's not a positive on the defensive end. I think the conversation for him comes down to how positive is he going to be on the defensive end? Is he going to be a good defender, or is he going to be a great defender, or is he going to be an elite defender that's making all defensive teams? I would trend more towards great to elite, but even if he's just a good defender, that should get him some minutes in the NBA. So in terms of a floor for Jeremy Sochan, I think he has a pretty dang high floor. When talking about his ceiling, you got to bring in the offensive aspect of his game. There's two different aspects to this. Can he shoot the three ball well, and can he get better as a self-creator, which in turn might make his passing and his playmaking better and open up his entire offensive game. The three-point shooting, he wasn't so bad that I wouldn't have confidence in it. However, it is a bit worrisome, especially when you look at his free throw percentage, and form-wise, I think he needs to make some improvements as well. If he can make some improvements with his form, I think he could be a solid shooter because he has a good rhythm to his shot. He has a good flow to his shot. There's a lot of good aspects with his form. I think, as I said in the intro, that a big problem for him is he doesn't get great extension on his shooting wrist. He kind of flares it out a little bit to the side and doesn't follow through fully. If he can just get proper extension on his shooting wrist, then I think he projects as a guy that could be a 35%-ish three-point shooter, and hopefully for his case, a free throw shooter in the range of 70%. I don't expect him to be great from the charity stripe, but just as long as he's not being treated like Ben Simmons was in the playoffs, where they're just fouling him and he's missing a bunch of free throws and he's played off the court, then he'll be fine from the charity stripe. But the biggest reason why I've struggled to figure out Jeremy Sochan as a prospect is the fact that he has some intriguing passing ability, and then his ball handling is solid. The way he moves, I actually like the way he moves. I just don't know what his upside is off the dribble, because a lot of times in college, he was driving to a spot, not beating his guy off the dribble, but then just using his body, turning and shooting a little hook over somebody, or just extending and finishing because he had the length to just finish over guys in college. In the NBA, that won't be such an advantage for him, and defenders are also quicker. I don't know if he's going to be a good enough ball handler to really do a whole lot off the dribble. I don't know if he's going to be quick enough to just blow by guys. The thing is he's not so bad in those areas that I wouldn't rule it out. I think the first step for him is just becoming a consistent catch and shoot guy, because then guys will close out on him harder, and he's shown the ability to attack closeouts really well, and that way he can get into the paint, make little dish off passes, make kick out passes, and get to the rim and finish, and he's good finishing around the rim. So if he just figures out the three-point shot, then he's a 3-and-D guy, a very high caliber 3-and-D guy that can also attack closeouts and play make a little bit, and that is a very valuable player. But on top of that, if he can improve his ball handling ability, I do like the way he moves, I do like some of his footwork, I do think he has an okay first step, then maybe he's a guy that you can give the ball to and he can create a little bit from the perimeter. He might have a little bit of pick and roll ball handler upside, and the fact that you can't roll those things out is why teams like the idea of Jeremy Sochan so much. High floor, 3-and-D with a bunch of traits that you can't rule out him developing at an NBA level. When watching the way this guy brings the ball up the court and makes some passes, and then you look at his defense, it's hard not to think a little bit about Draymond Green. Draymond Green was a 4-year college player at Michigan State who in his freshman year only played 11 minutes per game, only averaged 3 points per game. He did play 37 games his freshman year, but he didn't make a single three. His sophomore year shot 12% from 3 in 25 minutes a game. During his first 2 seasons in college, Draymond Green was 2 for 17 from 3. Then his third season, he figured it out, shot 37% from 3-on-3 attempts a game. So, I mean, Jeremy Sochan at this point is already ahead of where Draymond Green was at. The thing is Draymond Green mentally learned to process the defensive end at such a high level that isn't comparable to anybody in the league nowadays. So if Jeremy Sochan can get to the point mentally where he's processing the defensive end of the floor at an extremely high level, then he could be honestly a defensive player of the year candidate. And then if he ends up in the right system to develop his ball handling ability, some of his playmaking ability, then I wouldn't rule out some all-star upside for Jeremy Sochan. It's just hard to figure it out, and that's why I've struggled so much on him, is I don't know how confident I am in him figuring out how to be a more diverse offensive player than just a guy who can hopefully catch and shoot. I wouldn't be shocked if Jeremy Sochan goes higher than anybody expects. I think there's a chance that he could go 7 to Portland. There is a chance he goes 8 to New Orleans. They do have a lot of forwards. He could play the 5 for them, maybe be a small ball 5. He's just going to have to become a little bit better as a rim protector so that he's able to play against starting caliber lineups at the 5 spot. I think he'll be able to play small ball 5 off the bench. A lot of bench units go a little bit smaller and obviously aren't as good offensively, so you're able to get away more with playing a more undersized 5 against bench lineups. But in order to play against starting lineups, I think he has to maybe try and work on some of his vertical explosiveness, which isn't necessarily an easy thing to work on. I don't think that he would be a complete negative as a rim protector. It would just be beneficial for him playing the 5 spot to become good in that area. I think 9 to San Antonio is where you really start to get some traction in terms of landing spots for Sochan. They need to add to their forward depth, and I think they need a swing for the fences. And I haven't viewed Jeremy Sochan as a swing for the fences type guy, but the more I watch him, the more I am intrigued by his potential upside offensively, and I think a coach like Greg Popovich could probably get the best out of him. To Washington at 10, they have a ton of forwards, so I don't really like his fit there. I do think he would be a good fit next to a Kristaps Porzingis, however. New York at 11 have Julius Randle and Obi Toppin, so I'm not a huge fan there. He could make a lot of sense to OKC at 12 if they think he has a high ceiling, if they think they can tap into some of his offensive ability, but then when you get to Charlotte at 13, I think that's probably the floor for him. Charlotte needs to improve defensively. They were really bad defensively last year, and Jeremy Sochan could be a big piece in helping them improve on that side of the floor. Charlotte also has the 15th pick, so if they go center, maybe Jalen Duren is still on the board somehow at 13. They could go with him, and then Sochan could go 14 to Cleveland, but I would be shocked if he falls below 15 to Charlotte, because I think Charlotte's a good landing spot for him. Anyway, let me know what you think about Jeremy Sochan down in the comment section below. Hopefully you've been enjoying these draft profiles. I have a playlist link to draft profiles down in the description box below, so go check out that playlist if you've missed any. Leave a like on this video and subscribe, and I'm out of here. I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.